I'm 28F and never expected to be in this predicament. Yet here I am. My sister Lizzie, 26F, and I used to be very close. Growing up, we shared a room in our little suburban home, whispering secrets late into the night and daydreaming about our futures. Lizzie was always the more outgoing one, with a talent for art and music, while I was the studious type, constantly buried in a book. Despite our occasional disputes, we remained very close. Our parents, John, 55M, and Mary, 53F, raised us to prioritize family above all else. Dad worked long hours as a construction foreman to support us, while Mom worked part-time and ran the household. They instilled in us a strong sense of loyalty and taught us the value of sticking together through thick and thin. Little did I know how much my loyalty to family would be tested in the coming years. I met Jake, 30M, in my sophomore year of college. He was a senior, personable, popular, and shared my love of books. We bonded over our mutual appreciation for classic novels, spending many hours in quaint coffee shops talking about our favorite authors. Jake was my first serious boyfriend, and I fell hard and fast. After graduation, Jake decided to stay in town and work at a local publishing company. Our relationship grew stronger, and we began discussing our future together. We moved in together after graduation, sharing a small but comfortable apartment near the city center. Jake was always supportive of my career goals in marketing and encouraged me to aim high. Meanwhile, Lizzie had decided to pursue her passion for art instead of attending college. She worked several jobs to support herself while trying to establish a name in the local art community. I admired her determination, even though our parents were dismayed by her decision not to continue her education. Jake and Lizzie hit it off from the start. They shared an interest in indie music and abstract art, often engaging in passionate debates about the newest gallery openings or underground bands. I was overjoyed that my boyfriend and my sister got along so well, never suspecting that their relationship would develop into something more sinister. 5 years into our relationship, Jake and I were doing well. We'd weathered the storms of early adulthood together, including job changes, financial difficulties, and the death of our childhood dog. We had even started casually researching engagement rings online, fantasizing about our future wedding and the family we would create. In contrast, Lizzie's life was more turbulent. She moved from job to job, trying to make ends meet while pursuing her art. There were times when she'd crash on our couch, and Jake and I would assist her financially. I didn't mind because, after all, she was my sister, and I wanted to support her goals. Everything changed on a wet Tuesday in April. I had a large presentation at work and discovered I'd left some important data on my home laptop. Knowing Lizzie was staying with us that week, I contacted her and asked if she could send the files to me. She agreed, and I didn't think anything more about it. Hours later, after completing my presentation, I opened my inbox to locate the files from Lizzie, but there was something else. An email thread that Lizzie had mistakenly left open when she sent the files. My heart stopped as I read the letters between her and Jake, which contained intimate details and arrangements for their secret rendezvous. I felt as if the ground had vanished beneath me. I left work early, my thoughts reeling, and confronted Jake in our apartment. At first, he tried to downplay it, claiming it was just a few innocent flirtations. But as I revealed more of what I had read, his justifications fell apart. Jake finally confessed to a 6-month affair with Lizzie. He claimed that it began innocently, late-night conversations when I was sleeping or working late. They shared a common interest in art that grew into something more. He said he never wanted to hurt me, that he was confused about his emotions. I couldn't endure hearing it any longer and urged him to leave. Confronting Lizzie was even more challenging. I approached her modest studio apartment, my hands trembling as I knocked on the door. When she opened it, her expression sank. She knew I had found out. Unlike Jake, Lizzie did not attempt to offer explanations. She looked me in the eyes and told me she'd fallen in love with him. She said that they hadn't planned it, but they couldn't resist their feelings. The following several months were a haze of agony and heartbreak. I moved out of the apartment I shared with Jake and stayed on a friend's couch until I could find my own place. I threw myself into work, picking up extra assignments to keep my mind occupied. I cut off all contact with Jake and Lizzie, blocking their phone numbers and social media profiles. My parents were devastated by the news. They attempted to mediate at first, encouraging me to hear Lizzie out and consider forgiveness, but I couldn't handle the thought of being in the same room with her. The betrayal was too fresh, too painful. Eventually, they stopped pushing, but I could see the sadness in their eyes whenever the subject came up. After nearly a year of therapy and self-reflection, I felt ready to date again. I met Alex, 32M, at a charity fundraiser for the local animal shelter. He was tall, with kind eyes and a warm grin that instantly put me at ease. We bonded over our mutual love of dogs and our shared volunteer experiences at the shelter. Alex was patient, kind, and compassionate. As I opened up about my past, he never pushed me to go faster than I was comfortable with, always respecting my limits. Slowly, I found myself falling in love again, this time with a man who genuinely admired and cared for me. 2 years into our relationship, Alex proposed on a morning trek to our favorite viewing point. It was simple, private, and beautiful. As we started planning our wedding, I felt a mixture of excitement and dread. The thought of walking down the aisle again triggered memories I'd rather forget. Everything was going well until my dad mentioned inviting Lizzie to the wedding. They insisted she is still family and should be there on my special day. The very suggestion made my stomach turn. How could I celebrate the happiest day of my life with someone who had caused me so much pain? I adamantly refused, explaining that Lizzie's presence would bring up painful memories and could ruin the day. Alex agreed, saying that our wedding should be about our love and happiness, not about trying to fix broken relationships. My parents didn't take it well. They accused me of being petty and unwilling to move forward. They even threatened not to attend if Lizzie wasn't invited. Some of our relatives got involved too, accusing me of selfishness for keeping the family apart and asking me to be a better person. But I don't believe I'm in the wrong here. Lizzie deceived me in the worst way possible. She betrayed my trust with the man I expected to spend my life with. I fought hard to overcome that anguish and start a new life with Alex. I don't want anything to compromise my newfound contentment and calm. Reddit, am I wrong to not invite my sister to my wedding? Am I being petty? Or do I have the right to remove someone who has badly injured me from one of the most important events in my life? Update 1. I'd like to thank everyone who left helpful comments and advice on my first post. The response was amazing, and it gave me the confidence to have a difficult but essential conversation with my parents. I invited them over to supper last week, determined to clear the air and establish some boundaries. The evening started out tense. Mom kept trying to shift the conversation toward wedding plans, while Dad was unusually silent. After we finished our meal, I took a deep breath and began. I described in detail how Lizzie's actions had affected me, including the sleepless nights, trust issues that nearly ruined my relationship with Alex, and the therapy sessions I needed to work through my pain. I told them about the panic attacks I used to get any time I saw a couple that reminded me of Jake and Lizzie, how I'd lost weight because food tasted bad, and how I poured myself into work to avoid dealing with my feelings. To my amazement, Mom burst into tears midway through my explanation. Between sobs, she acknowledged that they had pushed for Lizzie's inclusion out of remorse. It turned out that Lizzie's life had spiraled drastically after the incident. My parents told me that Lizzie had lost her job at the gallery, where she had been working. Her drinking, which had previously been sociable, had progressed to the point where she was rarely sober. She'd been in a series of short-lived, dysfunctional relationships, one of which had left her in the hospital with a broken arm. Mom and Dad felt responsible for not seeing Lizzie's problems sooner. They scolded themselves for encouraging her free-spirited lifestyle without acknowledging that she may have needed more guidance and support. In their eyes, inviting Lizzie to the wedding was a way to reintegrate her into the family and possibly help her get her life back on track. While I sympathized with Lizzie's struggles, I made it clear that this did not excuse her behavior or erase the anguish she caused me. I reminded them of all the instances they had helped Lizzie financially and emotionally over the years, emphasizing how supportive they had always been as parents. I stressed that I was not responsible for Lizzie's well-being and shouldn't have to sacrifice my peace of mind for her sake. Dad, who had remained silent for most of the conversation, suddenly spoke up. He shared a story from his own past that I had never heard before. Apparently, his older brother had done something similar, compromising Dad's trust when they were younger. They had never fully reconciled, and I could see the sadness in Dad's eyes as he recounted decades of stressful family reunions and missed opportunities. He said he didn't want that for Lizzie and me, which is why he had been pushing for reconciliation. But he also admitted that he couldn't compel forgiveness, and that healing had to happen on my own terms. Dad apologized for pressuring me and promised that he and Mom would respect my decision regarding the wedding. He also told me they would attend with or without Lizzie. My parents agreed to speak with the relatives who had been causing me problems and explain the situation to them. They vowed to stop any future attempts to guilt-trip me into inviting Lizzie. After this emotional conversation, I felt as if a weight had been lifted from my shoulders. Although my feelings remained unresolved, I felt heard and understood by my parents for the first time since the ordeal began. Alex, who had made himself scarce during the dinner to give us space, was incredibly supportive when I told him later that night. He held me while I cried, a mixture of relief and anguish sweeping over me. He suggested we take a weekend trip to decompress and refocus on our wedding planning. We had a wonderful weekend at a nearby beach town, simply enjoying each other's company and finalizing some wedding plans. We chose our wedding cake, chocolate with raspberry filling, planned a celebration playlist, and even practiced our first dance on the beach under the starlight. This weekend has increased my appreciation for Alex. He's been my rock through it all, constantly prioritizing my emotions and wholeheartedly supporting me. I am more confident than ever that I am marrying the right guy. The wedding is now less than 2 months away, and I'm looking forward to celebrating our love with those who actually care about us. I still feel sad about Lizzie's absence, but I know this is the best decision for my mental health and happiness. Thank you again, Reddit, for assisting me in standing my ground and prioritizing my well-being. Your support has meant more than you realize. Update 2. It has been a crazy few weeks since my last post, and I have some unexpected news to offer. I received Lizzie's letter around 3 weeks ago. The envelope sat on our kitchen counter for days, and I hesitated whether to open it or throw it away. Alex, ever the voice of reason, argued that reading it might bring some closure, even if I chose not to respond. Finally, on a peaceful Sunday morning, I mustered the courage to open the letter. It was many pages long, written in Lizzie's trademark loopy handwriting. As I read, I could practically hear her voice in my thoughts, recalling late-night chats and secrets from our youth. Lizzie began by acknowledging the grief she had caused me and accepting full responsibility for her actions without making excuses. She wrote about the downward spiral her life had taken after Jake left her and how she turned to alcohol to alleviate her remorse and shame. She admitted to suffering from depression, which had begun long before the incident with Jake, but had worsened significantly afterward. Her admission that she had gone to rehab stunned me the most. She had apparently been in a treatment facility for the past 6 months, focusing on her sobriety and mental wellness. She wrote about the grueling treatment sessions, group gatherings, and the difficult task of confronting her demons. Lizzie mentioned that part of her healing journey was making amends to those she had harmed. She clarified that she was not seeking forgiveness, nor did she expect to be included at the wedding. Her intention in writing was simply to apologize and inform me that she was trying to become a better person. The letter ended with a story from our childhood. I stood up for her against some bullies at school. Lizzie stated that she had always admired my tenacity and honesty, and that betraying me was her biggest regret in life. I'd like to say that after reading the letter, I felt a rush of forgiveness, but the truth is that I was left conflicted. A part of me remained furious and sad, while another sensed a glimmer of the sisterly affection we had shared. I decided to take some time to examine my emotions before making any decisions. After a few days of deliberation and numerous conversations with Alex, I decided to meet Lizzie at a neutral location, a quiet cafe in town. Seeing her in person after 3 years seemed strange. She looked different, thinner, with dark circles under her eyes, but she exuded a peace that had not been there before. Our conversation began awkwardly, with many pauses and hesitant phrases, but as we spoke, it became easier. Lizzie restated what she had written in the letter, her voice breaking with emotion as she apologized once more for the hurt she had caused. She told me more about her sober journey and the work she had done in therapy. Lizzie even showed me a journal in which she had been writing letters to me as part of her recovery, though she had no intention of sending them. Reading excerpts from her genuine, unedited thoughts during those sad days was eye-opening. I will not lie, it was an emotional meeting. We both shed tears as we discussed the past and the agony we had both endured. Lizzie revealed that she and Jake had split up just months after I discovered them. Their relationship had collapsed under the weight of guilt and resentment, and she hadn't communicated with him since. By the end of our meeting, I felt a sense of closure that I hadn't realized I needed. The wrath that had been burning inside me for years began to subside and was replaced by a complex mix of sadness, relief, and cautious hope. After much deliberation and debate with Alex, I've decided not to invite Lizzie to the wedding. It's too soon, and I want to enjoy my special day without additional worry or mental strain. However, I've agreed to try to reestablish our friendship gradually, beginning with occasional text messages and perhaps coffee meetings in the future. Lizzie acknowledged and appreciated my decision. She even sent Alex and me a modest gift, a lovely hand-painted letter wishing us success in our marriage. It reminded me of the cards she used to make for my birthdays when we were younger, which brought back bittersweet memories. I understand that this process of healing and regaining trust will be long and possibly challenging. There are still times when the anguish of betrayal resurfaces, reminding me of everything we have lost. But for the first time in 3 years, I am optimistic about having my sister back in my life eventually. The wedding preparations are in full swing. Alex and I are delighted to celebrate our love with our closest friends and family. While Lizzie will not be present, I am more at ease with that decision now. Our special day will be spent looking forward to our future together, rather than lingering on past hurts. Update 3. It's been 6 months since my wedding, and I wanted to provide you with a final update on this chapter of my life. The wedding day was simply wonderful. Alex and I exchanged vows in front of our loved ones at a stunning vineyard setting we had chosen. The weather was perfect, with a moderate breeze and brilliant blue skies that seemed to reflect the joy I felt inside my heart. I walked down the aisle on my father's arm, my gaze fixed on Alex's. All of the drama and pain of the previous years seemed to fade away in that instant as I stood at the altar with my soon-to-be husband. All I could feel was love and appreciation. The ceremony was modest and personal, with readings chosen by our closest friends and vows written by ourselves. There wasn't a dry eye in the house when Alex swore to always be my safe harbor, and I promised to be his constant companion throughout life's experiences. The reception was a happy occasion. The meal was wonderful, the wine was plentiful, and the dance floor was full all night. My parents were on their best behavior, honoring Alex and me with no mention of Lizzie. It was great to see them so joyful and supportive. Lizzie followed my request and did not attempt to contact me on the wedding day. Instead, she delivered a gorgeous bouquet of sunflowers, my favorite flower since childhood, to my hotel room. The accompanying note congratulated us and wished us a life of happiness. It was a lovely gesture, one that I appreciated even more than I had imagined. Since the wedding, Alex and I have adjusted into married life, which has been fantastic. We recently purchased our first home together, a quaint craftsman-style house with a modest backyard. We've enjoyed making it our own by painting the walls and adding a garden. It feels nice to be starting a life together and making new memories in a space that is genuinely ours. My friendship with Lizzie is gradually improving. We've had a few more coffee meetings and are now texting on a regular basis. Our chats are still somewhat guarded, but there is a developing comfort between us that reminds me of our previous connection. Last month, we even ate dinner with our parents. It was a little awkward at first, with everyone trying to avoid certain issues, but as the evening proceeded, it became more like old times. Lizzie remains committed to her recovery and has been making significant improvements in her life. She's back in school, training to be a counselor for troubled teenagers. She believes her own experiences have given her insight into the difficulties young people encounter, and she wants to help others avoid the mistakes she made. Seeing her progress and commitment to changing her life has helped me in my journey toward forgiveness. Lizzie recently asked if she could exhibit some of her work at a local gallery. I hesitated at first, as recollections of her previous artistic pursuits triggered conflicting feelings, but I decided to go with Alex by my side for support. Walking into the gallery, I was taken aback by the transformation in her work. The chaotic, dark pieces from her turbulent years were replaced by brilliant, hopeful canvases that seemed to throb with life. One painting in particular caught my eye, 2 interwoven trees with branches reaching for the sky. Lizzie later told me that it reflected her wish for our relationship to flourish again after our separation. While we are not back to being best friends, and I doubt we ever will be, I am glad that we are working to mend our friendship. It's a lengthy process with occasional setbacks when past hurts resurface, but it feels right. We're learning to be sisters again in a way that honors our separate paths and who we've become. I would like to thank everyone who helped me through this difficult time. Your guidance and encouragement helped me stay strong and make the best decisions for myself. I've learned a lot about setting boundaries, self-care, and the power of forgiveness, not for the benefit of the other person, but for my own peace of mind. Looking back, I recognize that the healing process isn't linear. There are good days and bad days, moments of progress and moments of uncertainty. But I'm proud of how far I've come, and I'm excited about what the future holds with Alex. To anyone in a similar situation, remember that it is acceptable to prioritize your personal well-being. Healing takes time, and you don't have to forgive someone until you're ready to do so. Trust your intuition, surround yourself with supportive people, and don't hesitate to seek professional help if necessary. As for me, I'm looking forward to the next chapter in my relationship with Alex. We're talking about starting a family soon, and the prospect of becoming parents excites and scares us. Whatever challenges come our way, I am confident that we will face them together, stronger for having weathered the storm. Thank you for watching this video. Don't forget to subscribe and hit notification bell to stay updated.